Okay. So I feel like I've put out some videos now that have been overall pretty nice and positive. Well, now it's time to get hated, I guess. If you've seen my other videos or edits, you probably could have expected I'd make a video about this. But to those unaware, I am a fan of anime. I know, things aren't looking good for me. I like video games and anime. Yeah, it's like next I'm gonna say I enjoy Twitter too. And I know even though anime has been widely accepted nowadays, it still kind of feels weird saying it in person. Alright, let's get right into it. So these guys here are what I consider to be anime games, and these guys here are Japanese games that look like anime. Big difference. But today I'm mostly going to be talking about these guys. Okay, so let me give some background info so I don't look like a total chump. I've been watching anime ever since I was a kid on Toonami. I used to watch Dragon Ball Z at like 5 o'clock every day with my dad and older brother. I loved almost everything that they aired, like Sailor Moon, Inuyasha, and Mobile Suit Gundam to name a few. But of course, being a young boy, Dragon Ball Z was my favorite out of all of them. So, quick side tangent, this is like a really funny, like, I guess kind of story, but like, it still cracks me up on how I was allowed to see this stuff, but not certain cartoon shows for using words like shut up or stupid. Like, no, it's okay that this dude gets his arm ripped off and it like grows back and is all like bloody and stuff. Or how they would even say like swear words, like I'm pretty sure they say like damn it, and I'm pretty sure they say like bastard all the time too. I'm sorry, SpongeBob, I guess shut up was just like too strong for my parents. But back to the video. At this point, my parents had already introduced me to video games, so it was natural for them to buy me games based off the stuff I liked. And you bet your ass I played a whole lot of Dragon Ball Z games ranging from pretty good to god fucking awful. The Budōkai and Tenkaichi series were my favorites as a kid. It was so rad to be able to see these beloved characters in 3D models and to play them in a fighting game. These games had some love put into them, from all the small details like beam clashes and being able to fly. Yo, Xenoverse, what the fuck happened? I honestly don't know where to begin. The roster was and still is missing key characters. Like, where is Supreme Kai and where's Chiatsu? Like, they had all these other characters in the older games. Oh, right. Raspberry and fucking Cybermen were more important than them. That's right, I forgot. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand the debate of quality versus quantity, but how are you not gonna add characters from the main cast and instead the cannon fodder grunts? Not to mention how the sequel is still getting DLC characters for a game that came out in 2016. Like, goddamn, how much more can they milk it? On top of that, this whole game's plot is about what if scenarios, but they did such a poor job that another what if Dragon Ball game, Dragon Ball Heroes, took Xenoverse's ideas and used them for its own. And the ideas were done better. I'm about to lose it because Dragon Ball Z Budōkai, an older fighting game, literally had better what-if scenarios where Cell absorbs Krillin instead of Android 18. Like, it's literally the hold my beer meme. Oh, I didn't forget about you, Battle Z. Just be lucky I'm sparing you today. Okay, so Dragon Ball Z, an anime about martial arts and guys fighting. Makes sense for a fighting game, but why the hell is every other anime gotta be a fighting game too? Naruto, you're up on the chopping block. So the show does have solo fights, but it's not the only thing they do. Before they threw literal meteors at each other and became gods, they used to actually use real shinobi techniques, with a hint of anime fiction. And like Dragon Ball, I grew up watching Naruto as a kid, which also means I played a lot of Naruto games. And a bunch of them were also just fighting games. But the series that still stands out to me now is Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles. This game wasn't just a 1v1 fighter, it was a third-person action game. You finally got to beat up Nameless Ninja 1 and 2 rather than beating the shit out of Sakura. It had actual level design, skill trees, even boss battles. The sequel was leagues better with more playable characters and had an actual unique plot to the game that wasn't from the show, which was a godsend because another issue is anime games have the hardest time trying to retell the show with clearly limited assets. For most of them, I'd rather just rewatch the show, but sometimes, and I mean sometimes, they can make a scene more compelling than the anime. When in Naruto Shippuden, Sasuke and Naruto meet again for the second time in the anime, it's just boring flashbacks and exposition dumps. But Naruto Storm 3 reimagines this part with an amazing fight full of emotion. Please go watch the rest of this fight or go play it. Also, I gotta throw huge credit to CyberConnect 2's great job on this. Another game that steered away from the direct fighting game model was Shinobi Strikers. They went with an objective-based PvP action game. The execution could have definitely been better, but I really like the idea of playing in a team of 4 with different classes, using strategies for offensive playstyles and defensive. Like I said, concept, great. Execution, not so much. I think these are 2 games similar to the show without being a fighting game. Okay, let's keep them coming. Who's next? My Hero Academia. I was so hyped for One's Justice, I was searching online for every magazine scan about the game. I mean, hell, I was so interested in it, I wanted to know who was developing it. Turned out to be King Studios. I had never heard of them, so I looked at their other games and found Gunslinger Stratos. I was surprised to see it was a third-person objective-based shooter. And just by looking at its traversal options and combat, I was optimistic. I thought, how cool would it be to have a PvP game where one team is heroes with objectives like save hostages or protect the city while having a villain team opposing them. Along with the unique quirks every character has in the show would be awesome. So we got a 3D arena fighting game instead. Yeah, and man, this sucked. Because after playing it, there are little interesting concepts they added. Like the quirk system in the game is dying to have its potential tapped into. Characters like Aizawa who temporarily erase quirks make it neat to see how more quirk-reliant characters have to strategize with a smaller moveset, or putting Kirishima up against Todoroki who has a huge range advantage over him. It's like the overpowered characters in the show are just as strong in the game, so the other characters really have to strategize ways to win in the game. Oh, you want another superhero anime game? One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows. More like One Punch Man, a game nobody knows. This game died faster than Saitama killing one of his opponents. God, and almost every anime game now feels the need to add a subpar custom character creator option so fans can slap a bunch of shitty assets together and call it them. I have no issues with character creator options, just make them good at least. If you thought there was an oversaturation of fighting games, don't worry because they like to balance it out with Dynasty Warriors Musou style games. Yet another genre that's easy for them to slap new coats of paint on and push out the door. Now there are a couple of Warriors games I think are decent, but man am I not a fan of most. They see that in the shows a character will fight a group of enemies, so they say, how do we replicate this? Let's give them a whole fucking army to kill in the most clunky designed levels. And they've figured out that the Musou genre is easy to copy and paste. Attack on Titan was made into one of these and it was mediocre at best. Quick story time. Back in high school, I was in this class called CAD, or Computer Aided Design. It was pretty much a class for architects and engineers. In the class, everybody had these like really cheap Dell desktops at their workstation. And when we would finish our work, we would like sneak play Flash games or like Cards Against Humanity together in the classroom. This was also around the time when Attack on Titan had just been added to Netflix. So this was a lot of people's like first time watching anime. And what better show to start with than giant naked people versus Spider-Man with swords. There was this online browser fan-made tribute game that had a lot of quality for something that was free. It included a handful of playable characters with special attacks from the show. I main Levi because he had the spin attack from the anime that was like super overpowered. The models and maps were pretty faithful to the look of the anime. Not only did it look decent, it actually played nicely. The swing physics had this feeling of momentum and freedom to it. The swinging wasn't automatic, so you could have full control of your movement, rewarding players who got good at it. What also got me invested in this game was the YouTube channel Node. I watched their entire Attack on Titan fan game series, and it looked like they had a blast playing with each other. And so I decided I wanted to recreate that for myself. Me and one of my friends started playing it in class together. Eventually we had the entire class playing. I mean, we were all so dedicated that we would help each other finish our assignments before they were due so we could play in the class. It's honestly one of the fondest memories I have in high school. Thank you so much Fang Li for making this game. Needless to say, the actual release of the Musou game left me super disappointed. Back in 2016, they dropped this teaser for Berserk the Ban of the Hawk. I nearly cried. I couldn't believe they were making a brand new Berserk game for the current consoles at the time. Seeing my boy Guts in modern 3D graphics was fuel for my excitement. God damn, look how good my boy looks. Then I found out it was gonna be a Musou game. Everything in my body was telling me it'll be okay, right? It turned out to be one of the lowest scoring warrior style games on A lot of fans have varying opinions about this game, but the flaws are unacceptable. Like, what the hell is this? I also want to say that I do not want a Dark Souls made Berserk game. Not that I think From Software games are bad, I actually love a lot of their titles. It's that I would rather have a development team and publisher who wants to take the time to make their own Berserk game that's unique. Just because the developers at From Software are inspired by Berserk, that doesn't mean they want to make a Berserk game. And on a personal note, I would prefer Berserk was left alone to whatever Kentaro Miura's wishes were before his passing. Speaking of Black Swordsmen, I do not like Sword Art Online, and I do not plan to play any of these Sword Art Online games. I've been told that they also vary in quality, to no surprise, being a licensed anime game. And Sword Art fans, please do not murder me. I simply am just flexing my opinion. If you like it, that's cool too. If you are curious about those games, go watch Austin Eruption. I'm also just a really big fan of his videos. Getting back to my hit list, I want to talk about Demon Slayer next. So imagine if we had a Demon Slayer game that was like a third-person action game. And it could be like a semi-open world game where you can explore the world of Demon Slayer, seeing like different areas that weren't in the show or unique stuff that the developers make themselves. But I'll cut it there short because I could spend hours talking about a dream game for Demon Slayer. So if you've been keeping up with the video, probably gonna know that I'm gonna say they made a 3D anime arena fighter. I don't think all 3D arena anime fighting games are bad. Like, I think some of them are cool and I have some favorites that I like in particular, but the general notion is that they're not as good compared to 2D arcade fighting games. Here's the crazy thing, they rushed this bitch out the oven so fast that there weren't even any playable villain demon characters at launch. They eventually got added to the game prior to the release as free updates, but that doesn't excuse that they literally had models, they had like boss fights in the story mode of the game, so they had everything there already. I know making a game is not an easy task. It requires a lot of time and effort, and I think that's the reason why we won't get anything better than serviceable games. It's probably not the developers' faults, but the publishers and the executive heads. The reason why they make anime games because they know fans will eat it in a heartbeat from the hype of the show. And because they work within the time constraint of the show's popularity, these publishers probably tell the development team, hey, you've only got a year or so to make a game. Which sadly leaves these teams to make a quick fighting game and have a sliver of time to inject their own flair into it. But now we're seeing that even non-fighting anime games are getting shafted. Dragon Ball Kakarot's base game and minor DLCs were honestly piss poor aside from cool cinematics and QTEs thanks to, once again, CyberConnect 2. The game just felt so rushed and void of interesting content. The game is literally named after the main character, but you spend an equal amount of time not playing as him. Like, getting to Dragon Ball Z specifics, how come they decide that when he dies in the beginning to not let you play as Goku and experience the side stories he had in the anime on Snake Way? Then they came out with Trunks the Warrior of Hope DLC. This DLC delivered way better stuff than the base game, and it's thanks to the dev team for being given more time to actually develop content for the game. They even included details from the Dragon Ball Super manga that weren't in the anime where Trunks learns to go Super Saiyan 2. While we're on newer games, let me bring up Dragon Ball The Breakers. An interesting take going with the asymmetrical multiplayer horror game style. But why are they using literal assets from Dragon Ball Xenoverse and it looks uglier than Xenoverse? Oh, and can't forget My Hero Academia Ultra Rumble, a goddamn battle royale game that also reuses assets from My Hero One's Justice. It's a damn shame, honestly. I assume these publishers know it's easy to just make a quick game and release a sequel for a full price, after every other season with some new characters. Since these shows are usually still ongoing at the time, they can only have the game go so far. Like Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. First off, what a fucking mouthful, but the game's story mode showed the conclusion to the series before the anime even did. Also, half the time when these games are coming out, you're like, what characters are they gonna even add? Oh cool, we got the one side character who did jack shit, and the main character has 3 different playable characters? I'm harshly criticizing licensed anime video games on the internet. What is wrong with me? But hey, I guess all this shouldn't be too much of a surprise, because remember when every movie and cartoon was making shitty licensed video games? Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean you, Monsters Inc. Scream Arena. I actually really did enjoy this game as a kid, so I'm not even joking. With the huge success of anime in these recent years, I really don't expect anything to be changing anytime soon. That's not to say we haven't gotten any good ones. Dragon Ball FighterZ is still an amazing tag team arcade fighting game that is still fun to play. Can people also stop asking for every anime fighting game to be like Dragon Ball FighterZ? Thank you. I am personally enjoying JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R, but could we please get some netcode? I'm literally listening back to the recording and I sound like I have a gun pointed at my head. I sound like that because I'm trying to walk over eggshells right now and not piss everybody off. And Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise had some shortcomings, but I enjoy the hell out of its combat mechanics thanks to the Yakuza series. They chose a great developer to work on this game. Stay tuned because I might do a Yakuza video in the future. And I also didn't know I needed this. When I see games like One Piece World Seeker and Dragon Ball Kakarot, they spark bits of hope in me every now and then, but as we go further, I lose more hope. Bandai is really just the EA of the Japanese game industry. If you notice, most of the games I mentioned are in the mainstream Shonen Jump category, so these games might just be doomed to begin with, but that's a hot take for another video. I understand the industry isn't as cut and dry as we, the consumers, may think it is. There's tons of factors that get thrown into the pot. I can assume that when more funding and licensing things get added, you also get more heads that approve and disapprove different stuff. And trying to look at it from their perspective, yeah, it sounds great making millions of dollars for popping these games out left and right. It just sucks that for every 10 bad games we get one good one. It upsets me that a lot of people are just content with the mediocrity they shovel out. And I'm sorry if this video offended anyone or, kind of stirred anyone off in the wrong way. These aren't my anime takes, that's gonna be for another video, but I just kind of wanted to talk about this stuff because I feel like no one is really saying it or pointing out this stuff that we should be. I don't work in the anime industry, I'm not a game developer, for sure as hell not a game journalist. I'm just a fan that used to really enjoy playing these games. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go touch some grass for the next couple of hours.